Test 1 2 check 1 2. Hello. Test 1 2. Check 1 2 check. Check audio. Audio. Ooh, look at that. Woo-hoo. Audio check 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 1 1. Check. Audio check 1 2. Check 1 2 check.
Hello.
Hey Tom, I got you. You hear me? Any echoes or anything weird going on?
None whatsoever.
All right.
Beautiful. Ha.
I think what made the ghost mad was that I couldn't.
It's the wrong one. What's up, Tom? Hang on. That's the wrong one too. There we go. There's the right one. All right, welcome to the shows, guys. Shadowcast. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the show. It's the Shadowcast, episode 3. We're live here on Midwest Shadows. Tom, what's up? How you doing tonight?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah.
Tonight we've got a great show in store with the story of something that happened that probably nobody's ever even heard about over here, unless you live over in Zimbabwe, Rhodesia, something like that. Tom, continuing our conversation from last week, we were talking about UFOs, coming to the best evidence that we've had for the unexplainable, what some people are, rightfully skeptical about. Stuff's kind of like outside the
How
norm.
are they?
Well, I guess, I don't know, something like that. But tonight we want to take a few calls on the Ghostline. We got a story to share that was witnessed by over 60 school children back in.
That's impossible. No.
Phone number for the Ghostline tonight, 773-669-6452. And you can join us later on if you want to scheme in and give us your two.
You're welcome to call.
Absolutely.
Give us a ring. But first, there's something you got to see.
So tonight we're going to be looking at a documentary where it's interviewing the school children. Tom, tell us a little bit about what happened here, this 1994 incident.
It's an event that began on September 14th of 1994 in the African nation of Zimbabwe, in which a bizarre light was seen in the sky. It was a fireball that some 15,000 Zimbabweans saw on a clear evening. The official story is that this was a meteor, except that it lasted 2 to 3 minutes in the sky, and some report it moving diagonally front, back, side to side. You get it?
Tom, I have actually, sorry to interrupt there, but maybe it was a meteor. I don't know. I saw a green one a couple years ago that was just taking its sweet ass time falling out of the sky. But you're telling me this one was actually moving around side to side, front and back.
This strange event in the sky was seen by literally thousands.
But it didn't end there. There's actually a point to this. It wasn't just ending at the fireball. Tom, what was the real coup de grace of this story here? What happened?
2 days later, on September 16th, 1994, a private school in rural Zimbabwe, there was a group of grade school children who went out to play on a Friday morning at approximately 10:15 a.m. and they had a close encounter of the third kind.
UFO actually landed and little people got out. They were floating around and jumping around all nimbly bimbly.
That is correct, sir.
Before we get into that, I want to say hello and welcome to the live chat. We got this up here and we're watching you guys' comments. The way it works is if you guys say something in all caps, we probably get to it if we want to. It's the rule. So we probably should, but we'll think about it. So we might not. We probably will. Also, the ghost line again is open, 773-669-6452. So let's jump into this real quick. It's about a half hour long. Now, Tom, the problem with this is that there are no photos. There are no adults that even saw this. It was only school children. 60 of them saw it.
62.
And I have kids, and I used to be, and Tom, you're a confirmed liar. You're a really good liar, so you should be an expert on this kind of thing. So when we're watching this,
I'm the one liar out there. There's one of me.
He's a nice guy. It's okay. As we watch,
I invented lying.
Pay attention to how the children are coming across. I don't think that they're, well, my gut reaction when I seen this, I don't automatically think that these little shits are lying. That's not my automatic reaction. I'm thinking these children are legit. I don't think that they're trying to pull one over. And that's just my take on it. But we'll leave that up to you. And if you want to call in on the ghost line, you can share your opinion with us.
I want the audience to watch the following very closely. And then I want the audience to explain it to Joel and Tom. All right? How does that sound? You put me in my place.
Let me pull this up here real quick. Because I don't know. It's odd enough. You see the way the children are talking about it. Like I said, my initial gut reaction is not that these are, they're just making it up.
They're just kids. Who cares, right?
Researching this too, it seems that they were made fun of. They were called crazy for it. A lot of their own family didn't believe them. Some of them were trying to distance themselves from what happened. It just doesn't really smack of something that they're, it's I don't know. It just doesn't sound like they're making it up. But let's pull this up here and see what you guys think. So this is back in 1994. So these kids would be in their mid 30s by today's standards. If they're 8, 9, 10 back in 1994, they're in their 30s.
They're between the ages of 5 and 12.
It'd be very interesting to hear from them today. To actually interview them. Let's see here. I wish this was subtitled, but we don't have that luxury.
They just have kind of strange English accents. You'll get used to it.
All right, these are the grade 7s, the oldest children here at the school who say they saw something.
Did you all see something?
Yes.
Can you just tell me very briefly, if we go along, just say what your name is and what you saw?
Nathaniel Coxwell.
What did you see?
There was like ship landed on the ground.
So you're saying a ship landed on the ground.
Did it have a shape?
Yes.
Like what?
Why isn't this sharing?
It had a round top and it was flat like that around the sides.
What was around the side?
Just
There we go.
so like a platform coming around the side.
Did you see anything else?
Yes.
So a platform comes out of the side of this thing. I think what he meant by that is maybe like a stairs or something. I don't know.
And where we looked, it was about this small, but we were quite way away. So
I'm thinking more like a ramp.
Could you see?
So a couple of guys came out. They are described as being about the size of the children. These were little creatures that came out of the ship.
Described as being 3 feet tall.
It looked like he had long hair.
Little black guy with long hair.
Just in the black, what would he wear? What did you think it was?
I don't know, really.
Did you see the thing, whatever it was, land?
Yes, after the bell rang.
I want to pause this real quick because she just asked him, what do you think it was? This kid looks out to the side like he's accessing memory, and he's just like, I don't know really what it was. When I was a kid, if I wanted to make something up, I'd be a little bit more specific about it. But let's continue
Joel,
on. I was walking up to the class.
I'm sorry, Tom. What did you think?
I saw flashes in the side of my eye. Of trees with this one thing sitting on the side and another thing sort of like running up and down the at first I thought it was just some boy from the from the compound playing around, but the hair was, it looked more like our hair. It wasn't curly. That thing almost looked like a hippie.
Hippie aliens, man.
I saw
All right, Jace, I sent you the link.
black men. They had longish hair, and it was all black, and they had big black eyes. That's all I saw. I saw a glimpse. They kind of turned around and stared, and then went back into a kind of like ship. There was like sort of one big one with quite a few little ones, all scattered around.
When you say they had big eyes, show me with your hand the size compared to
They were oval, kind of like that.
oval.
Yes.
Okay. And could you see anything else on the face?
No, I couldn't. All I could see was his hair, and when he turned around, and then he...
Were you afraid?
Yes, I was.
What did you think it was?
Well,
Sounds to me like she's describing a gray alien, but it had hair.
Other people said they were UFO.
Some have posited that it may be some sort of cape.
We were in the classroom, and I ran out, and I saw...
Because they said it was like a mane, like a horse would have.
Interesting.
That it flowed down behind him.
Sort of, but I did definitely see...
And it was silvery.
That I saw, yes.
Did you also see?
Yes.
What is your name?
Jared Sand.
What did you see?
I saw something silver on the ground amongst the trees,
Something silver on the ground amongst the trees.
and that's all I saw.
You saw a person alongside the silver thing.
Yeah.
What did the silver thing look like?
It looked like the shape wasn't real.
Have you heard about UFOs before this?
No.
You didn't know anything about it, so it was something quite new to you. Were you afraid?
Yes.
What did you do? Did you run to check the teachers, or you just stayed with the other children?
I stayed with the other children.
We talked with a lot of individuals about their experiences, but there's something about talking with, a group that has collectively experienced the same thing that is just more convincing and seems more legitimate. In the case of both these young children who had experienced a visitation from two UFOs and the two beings who had hovered over their playground during recess. This was at a small secondary school outside Harare in Zimbabwe, and 60 children at recess had seen these two UFOs hover, two alien beings come out. And I even remember how one little girl described it to me. She said it was as if they were kind of floating above the grass towards us, hopping across the grass towards us. And in this case, I remember John's voice very specifically as he asked one little girl. And these were very disciplined, post-colonial little children, different races with braids, very well spoken. And John said, well, what would you call these things that you saw? And she'd say, I'd call them aliens. I'd call them alien beings.
In September 1994, over 60 children from this school in the suburb of Harare, Zimbabwe, witnessed several objects landing and two beings coming out. Just over 2 months later, John and Dominique came to the scene to work with the children, their parents, and the teachers still suffering from shock. John, who essentially specialized in child psychiatry, devoted a great deal of time to interviewing the children.
Something scared you, is that right?
So he specializes in child psychology here.
What noise?
The noise that we heard in the air.
You heard a noise in the air? What was it like? Like a roar or a buzz or a hum, or what kind of a noise?
It was like someone was blowing a flute. I was hearing myself.
It was scary because you saw something yourself?
Yes. I saw little objects hovering. It was quite big actually, and then there was little ones all around it. We saw something silver, and then we ran to the logs, and we saw the silver thing, and we saw a man standing next to it.
What did it feel like when he was looking at you?
I was scared.
It felt scary? What was scary about it?
Well, felt scared because I've never seen such a person like that before.
Did you see the eyes? What did they look like?
They were going like that.
Where was the pointy part? Was the pointy part in here, or was the pointy part out there? Up there. And what was the feeling when you looked at the eyes?
It was scary.
Mm-hmm. And what scary? Why? What made it scary?
The eyes looked evil.
Evil. Mm-hmm. And what was evil about them? Say what you mean by evil.
It looked evil because it was just staring at me.
With what? Staring at you as if what? As if to do what?
As if it wanted to come and take us.
As if it wanted to come and take you. That was the feeling you got? That it wanted you to go with it? Did you feel like you wanted to go with it? No. Did you feel, what was the effect on you when you felt it wanted to have you go with it?
I just walked away and I started crying.
They came running up here in such a panic. And, I mean, even if we had staged it, they could not have run all together like that. Even if we practiced it, I don't know how many times. But they came up here like a living snake. And they just came, we were in a staff meeting and we just heard them screaming, ah! And they were here, you know, and so I can't make that up.
I was very skeptical in the beginning as well. I believed that they'd seen something, but I wasn't prepared to accept that it was anything supernatural or anything like that. But I think the consistency of...
Well, you better get ready to believe it.
That it was more than I was prepared to admit in the beginning.
So both of them were running. One was running in the trees, and the other one was running across the ship. Because there were also trees here.
The eyes were like more pointed as they came in toward the center of the head, is that?
No, more so here. And this was all black in here.
All black. Now you've made pupils. Did they actually have pupils, or
Yes,
was
the
it
pupils were white.
What?
The pupils were white like that.
You saw white in the center?
Yes, like that.
Was he near the silver object, or was he far
No,
from
on
it?
top.
On top of the silver object. Okay. And did you look at him?
Yes.
Did he look at you?
Yes, and he gave me the creeps and I took
Gave you the creeps. Actually, in your drawing, you showed him standing up, didn't you?
Yes, I had to draw him standing up because I couldn't draw him sitting. What I thought was maybe the world's going to end. Maybe they were telling us the world's going to end.
Well, why do you think they might want us to be scared?
Because maybe because we don't look after the planet the area properly.
And really, is this an idea that you have had before, that we don't look after the planet properly in the air, or did this idea come to you when you had this experience?
When I had this experience.
And how did that idea come to you from this? This is a little hard, but try to be with me here, okay? How did this idea come to you when you had this experience?
I just felt all horrible inside.
You felt horrible. At what point did you feel that? When you saw the craft, or when you got home at night? Or
when I got home.
Do you think she's describing some sort of like a psychic experience, Tom?
Say more about that.
It's exactly what her and other children describe, that they were getting thoughts in their head.
And there would be no air and people would be dying.
Telepathically.
And those thoughts came to you.
Well, that little boy,
you had those thoughts before this?
at the beginning, he
No.
described having white flashes behind his eyelids, didn't he?
Come to you? Did they come to you from?
Yes, they describe in their own ways,
On the man.
in their own experiences, something similar that happened to many of them, which is ESP and thoughts, feelings, and visions being transmitted into their minds and into their feelings.
What was the sense you got from those eyes?
He was interested.
The creatures did not communicate verbally, but the kids all basically got the same messaging.
Events, like a person talks about something that has happened to them. And when you're
And this is
talking
the
with
psychologist saying that
psychotic who's
basically
telling you
the kids
something that is a
believe
delusion
what they're
and you
saying.
feel that it really didn't happen. I can tell. I mean, I know this is something that a person wants me to believe, or they're frightened, or they're distorting reality in some way. There's nothing like that here. These are people of sound
This is a
mind,
Harvard
by and
Medical
large,
School psychologist
telling
saying
me
this. This isn't
something
some
that's
geek off the
very-
street.
They know that I might think they're crazy, and so they're a little concerned about telling me, and
Who specializes in child psychiatry.
and doubt, and
He believes them.
And then they describe something very
That's pretty
real
weird.
and intense, a light, or something happened to their body, or it's the whole quality of the way they talk about it is the way a person talks about the experience that happened to
It
them.
was silver, and the ring around it was red.
It was red.
They were flying around one of your hats, Tom.
There were lights around here.
Lights along the
Yes, giant hat. Oh, there's a kitty cat in there.
I saw one over here. They had eyes like that, and they were kind of just like looking at us. They were like kind of astonished at what we were.
They believe the aliens had an ominous message.
Fungi, what you imagine is his reason for visiting Earth.
I think it's about something that's gonna happen.
Something that's going to happen.
It was making me all scared. My heart was now starting to pump faster,
Mm-hmm.
and it was making me all woozy now.
Oh, Wizzy?
Woozy. My heart kind of went faster and slower, and then faster and then slower, all at the same time.
What time of day did this event occur?
At break time,
Break time in the morning or lunch break?
morning.
Morning break. And what were you doing at the time?
Well, I was playing in the playground, and then we saw something silver, and then we quickly ran to the louds, and we saw a silver thing, and we saw a man standing next to it. They were just like looking at all of us. They seemed to have stiff necks. They didn't seem to move their necks like we can.
How tall would you guess they were?
They were about my size.
About your size.
His eyes looked at me as if, I want to, and things like that.
I want to what?
I want you.
I want you.
They weren't frightened of us. They actually came near,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't try to attack.
They didn't act in an unfriendly way.
No. They were looking at me back. I couldn't just keep on looking at him, so I had to stop and I looked sideways. So he keep on making me feel faint. They want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world, and we mustn't get too technologized.
Would you like to see him again?
Yes.
I would like to see him again. Think you might see him again?
I don't know.
And if you saw him again, what would you do?
I'll ask him some questions.
What would you like to ask him?
I'll ask him what is he doing on Earth and what does he want with us.
Mm-hmm.
If someone were to say, well, this is imagination, this is a dream, how is it different from imagination or a dream as you experienced it?
Well, it's definitely reality. And anybody can think that it's not true or that we're making things up, but we know what we've seen. We
Right.
believe it. I believe in it because I did see it.
Mr. McKay, what was your first impression when you heard the story?
My first
1.5 years ago.
Yeah, it was 1.5 years ago. My first impression was that I thought the children were imagining what they saw.
Because there were no adults there.
There were no adults who saw it. It was only children at the school, and all the children in the playground, somewhere like 250 of them, And out of that, only sort of 60 claim to have actually seen it as such. So that actually made me more skeptical initially. Then
Guy looks like he's been chasing parked cars.
Professor Mack from Harvard University out here. I've changed my life slightly. I believe the children did see something. Unfortunately, I personally didn't see it, so it's very difficult for me to give my own personal opinion.
Mm-hmm. It's more than 1.5 years ago, that the UFO landed here. Yeah. Who can tell me exactly what happened? Okay, go ahead.
We were playing down on the log.
Yeah.
And then we saw something shiny, so we all ran down over there.
And it was in the early morning?
It was at break time.
Yeah.
And then we saw something shiny. And we saw two people. They were in tight black suits. And they had big eyes. And we didn't actually see their nose. It was quite small. And their mouth was quite small as well. One of them was running in slow motion up across the ship. And the other one was standing beside it.
Running in slow motion.
Yeah, you made the drawing, huh? It looked like this?
Yeah, something like that. I couldn't see the eyes or the nose or the mouth. It was just blank, like a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
But when they
Children describe them as wearing something like black wetsuits.
I thought they were crazy just coming to our school doing nothing. And all I saw was something like silver coming
They
down.
also said that the craft and the occupants were actually floating about 3 inches above the ground.
Then more people came and more. And then I said, hey, I can't see anymore. Come on. Somebody, I'm sure. Come on. And then I went to the front and I started seeing more of them. And then I just ran away.
You know, all these children's stories kind of vary from child to child, depending on what they themselves witnessed. They're not all telling the same
And how
thing.
they interpreted the events in their minds.
Go Landy.
No, just kidding, it's an airplane.
This is how Day Antwood started.
I thought to myself, that can't be an airplane because it was very
Jay,
shiny.
be serious.
Kind of like a cigarette, you know? It was a long thing, and then on the end it was all shiny. And so I said, maybe it is a UFO. And we were all kind of like getting scared now.
Yeah, it was probably just the Antwoord tour bus
the day that
crashing
it
or
happened,
something.
And we started thinking, yeah, that must have been a UFO in the sky. Because my brother also saw it, but he's left the school now. Mm-hmm. It was looked like a round shape. It's like a plate, with like two plates that was looked like on top of each other. Then there was looked like the hole, the hatch for it, and there was looked like in between two trees. You couldn't see that clearly, and it was just silver all over. I didn't see any men or something like that.
You saw one UFO that's surrounded by little ones?
Yeah, one big one. One big
Yeah.
one, little ones around.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see your drawing.
They saw a fleet of 3 to 5 small flying saucers in the air.
Yeah.
Surrounding the ship.
And one landed.
Like Sean's, huh? This is Sean's drawing. Yeah. And okay, one landed, the big one landed, and the two aliens came out.
Yes.
And what happened with the little ones?
The little ones, they were just floating around in the air. They didn't touch the ground. They touched the ground.
And then these made the silver light?
Yeah. They were like different color lights. Like green, red.
You know, I have read of other encounters where they are floating just slightly above the ground, where they're not actually making contact or walking, they're floating.
It's interesting that the children describe the method of locomotion as walking and running, but also being slightly above the ground.
Like as if it was one ship moving.
Yeah.
Kind of moonwalking, like
yeah.
And then
Were they yellow?
No. I didn't have a silver crayon, so I did it yellow.
Yeah. So, but what happened? You came home and you told your parents?
Yeah. Some of them didn't believe it. My mom didn't believe me.
Your mom didn't believe you?
my mom didn't believe me.
Is that hard? Because if you see something and nobody believes you, what happens?
Well, yeah, you feel upset. You feel lost out. You took your friends. You start to think.
I'm sorry, but my reaction
Yeah.
I'm not looking at a group of little lying brats. You know, that's not that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking these are pretty sweet little kids that are just, you know, telling the truth about what they saw.
I'm not even going to entertain the idea that they're lying.
It doesn't even come into my mind.
No, I'm not even going there. That's ridiculous.
You've seen too many movies.
Yeah.
Was there nobody in your neighborhood who believed you?
My mom and dad, my granny and my granddad believed me, but my uncle didn't. Where the spaceship had landed, all the insects and ants and stuff like that were all dead, and there was a huge black mark there. And my mom said it might have just been a fire there, but I don't think there was. I think it was the alien ship.
Yeah. But, you've gone to the place, of course, and have you seen anything?
So we weren't allowed to.
An evidence, I mean, that it was there?
Some other people came to the school and they went out the boundary of the playground and they went to go and see what had happened there, and they saw that the grass was burnt and all the living things had died there in that area.
The grass was burned and all of the living things in that area were dead.
And my mother just believed me, but my dad didn't believe anything I said. Anything.
And did you describe it to them? Exactly what happened?
Yeah, and I drew it on a paper and I said, Daddy, this is what it looked like. And then he saw it well and he said, Michael, I think you're telling the truth now. And then that's all he said of it, and that's all.
Who was scared? Not all of you, huh? Who was dreaming about it since then? In a bad way? Yeah, in a bad way? No, let me tell me first in a bad way. Why? You have nightmares about it?
Yes, I used to, but then after about a year I stopped dreaming about it.
Mm-hmm.
I dreamt that the same one I saw without hair, he came into my bedroom and he took me from my bed.
Did you dream that?
I don't think that was a dream.
I woke up and sleep.
What did your mom say?
Well, she just kept on saying it was a nightmare.
She has very extensive memories.
She had a bit.
No, not at all.
Nothing. It was all fun.
This continuing encounter she had may have also been telepathic.
This lady got kidnapped and she had babies that were aliens.
That's what you're afraid of. Yeah.
I'm always sleeping with my kittens because I'm always so scared.
And he's protecting you, of course.
I just don't see what the point is if they're lying, if this is all just mass hysteria and they're making up a story for attention. I don't get it.
The little black girl has very extensive description of alien interaction.
It looks like, because even though you can
She's talking about a floating eyeball coming to her in the night.
I want to come and take a closer look how the grass grows, how the trees grow and stuff like that. I think the aliens came because they're curious like us, and they want to learn about us and we want to learn about them. Some people say that people are saying that the aliens came to warn us when something's going to happen, that something bad is going to happen to the earth. I think they came here to try and warn us that the children, because we're young, we've got a long time till we die, to warn us that when we're older, something's going to happen to the earth. Yeah, and not to pollute. Because we're young, we can still prevent it. Yeah.
Do you still have all that feeling that as a child you can do a lot?
I have it.
Yeah? Do you feel, as a child, privileged? Or do you think, next time if the UFO is coming, please go to another school?
No, I don't feel
You feel privileged that you go?
I'd love them to come back and you could...
They all wanted to come back.
Just come closer.
What do you want to say?
The other thing I want to know, when are we going to be on TV? Alright.
We sent you the cassette.
I believe that the aerial sighting although we do not fully understand what happened, there was something definite that did occur there that was out of the ordinary. It was not.
These are the same children you just saw.
If there was one experience I'd like to relive, it would be that particular experience.
It really does stick with me that something happened, something was out there, and the kids saw it.
He has never stopped talking about it. He has never stopped talking about it. He has believed all the time. It happened.
I think something definitely happened. Yeah, sure. But it was just that picture that it'll never go out of my mind, was the face, just the craft, you know, it'll always be there.
We met up on many occasions after that and hugged and shook our heads and said that was the most amazing experience.
That guy's
of
kind
our
of aged
lives.
for 35.
It was literally fear of the unknown.
I don't know who that guy is.
That's the best way I can describe it, but I'll never forget it.
Strange, it was exciting, it was, just, you don't see stuff like that every day, That was like a once in a lifetime experience.
Strange, I guess. Like I said, I don't want to believe in the whole aliens and stuff, but it always leaves me questioning. That was very strange. So it is possible. And in a way, I guess there are times when I try to disassociate myself with like the experience that happened in 1994, like trying to disassociate myself with what happened there when I was in junior school, but I realized I'll be lying to myself.
No one is willing to say that because we know that we didn't just make things up. Something definitely was happening. Whether it was UFOs or whether it was, what else. Can't say for sure one way or the other, but definitely there was something that happened. And I got the whole story around that.
I don't believe for a minute you could get that many kids to agree to do something like that. I really don't. I know children well enough. I just don't think that would happen. So I'm absolutely sure that something did happen.
I haven't really talked to anyone about it. I usually kept it quiet, because most people probably think, but not. But I think it's good to speak about it.
Oh, there you go. The Ariel event in Zimbabwe in 1994.
Compelling.
Let us know what you think. The Ghost Line is open if you want to give us a call. 77.
Chase, do you want to weigh in?
Yes, thanks, Tom. I would like to know what those kids ate for breakfast that morning. It was mid-morning break. Could they have been slipped some weird Mickey fin? Is it some sort of horrible wheat that they ate? Could it be a mass hallucination?
If you want to weigh in, the Ghost Line is open. If you want to give us a call at 773-669-6452. We're wondering if maybe this was just a mass DMT trip where the kids all happen to hallucinate the same exact thing. And they all have the same memories and everything of what happened. Go ahead and give us a call if you guys want to weigh in, or if you have your own encounter or experience with aliens or paranormal.
Joel, I would also like to mention, I'm reading here on Altered Dimension Paranormal website. They have a nice article on this. It mentions that UFOs and aliens are not part of Zimbabwean pop culture the way it is in many other countries. That some of the children have heard of UFOs, but many of the children did not know what UFOs or aliens were.
For what it's worth, my very limited knowledge on Zimbabwe is that my aunt and uncle and two cousins on my mum's side were actually in Zimbabwe on a bit of a missionary quest, if you get what I mean, up till about, I would say, 1992. And then it got to be a very, very dodgy period. A lot of people were leaving Zimbabwe, a lot of war, a lot of upheaval. And by, what was it, 2004? Was that 94 or 2004?
94.
94. It was getting very hairy out there. That's all I know about Zimbabwe.
Thank you for that info, Jace. The children were outside playing during their recess break. The adults were all in a staff meeting inside the school. There were no adults on the playground except for the one adult was in a concession stand that one of the children describes as a room. So I'm assuming it is at least conjuncting with the building. It wasn't actually facing the events that happened. I think the concession stand was part of the building or inside. And
I'm sorry.
Some of the children described 3 flying ships. Others said there were 5, which some may have only seen 3. The largest of the flying crafts landed in a small hill area near the playground that has thorns and brush that the children weren't allowed to play in because it has trees and things growing in there. They said that this ship that was silver, metallic, and shaped like a saucer landed. It had a platform that came out. A small man, they describe, came towards them from a distance of about 100 meters, walked towards them, stopped, and this all happened within, I'm guessing, a matter of a few minutes. The being made, quote, made them feel horrible inside, looked at them like he wanted them or wanted to take them, and also communicated. This may not have been a direct communication. It may have been something mental that was transmitted from the being to them, but that the earth was not being taken care of. And when pressed on this further, the children said that it was the air that wasn't being taken care of and that something bad was going to happen unless things changed. And also that it was communicated to them that they were still young enough that there was still time, but that if things didn't change, something bad would happen.
You know, Tom, immediately my thought goes to the HARP project and chemtrails and geoengineering, what's been happening behind the scenes. And there's been actually a lot of information dropped about that. I'm no longer thinking that that's just strictly conspiracy theory, area, when you have actual like zoomed in footage of these aircraft turning on and turning off their system at the same altitude. There's no variance in altitude, but just all of a sudden they're not dumping a bunch of crap out the back of these planes. So when they see that and they talk about, how the air isn't being taken care of, my thoughts immediately go to the HARP program, HARP.
I was thinking of a couple different things, Joel. First of all is the pollution of the atmosphere and the greenhouse effect, which is demonstrated on the planet Venus, which is basically a boiling hell, whereas Venus used to be an Earth-like planet. I was also thinking of thermonuclear war, in which the destruction of Earth is actually an effect of the cause and effect of Earth's atmosphere following the detonation of atomic weapons. that the nuclear winter spreads around the globe, and it's the air, it's the radiation and also the air contamination that would actually destroy life on the planet Earth.
Now, Tom and Jace, in any of your guys' research, have you ever seen any different races of aliens that have been described that may fit the description of what these children are talking about?
Gray aliens.
Yeah, you've got your classic greys, and then you've got your
necks,
little chaps
3
wandering
feet
around.
tall,
One thing I
wearing
noticed,
space suits.
the one thing I noticed is that in one of their illustrations there, I don't know, they didn't talk about it, but it did get flashed for a second, was that they were describing some compound eyes. And the two little men that came out, there was multiple beings, and they weren't all the same if you listen to the story. And one of their drawings actually seems to describe compound eyes, which tells me some sort of insectoid, perhaps.
Also, I don't know if you caught this, but also they said that the little man that approached them, once he had ESP'd with them, he teleported. He vanished away, and then they saw another little man that was standing behind the spacecraft. Some of the children said it was the same one, or some described it as a different little man that was behind the spacecraft after the first little man vanished. And that little man was behind the spacecraft for just a few moments, and then he teleported away too. And then the ship flew away.
So if you'd like to weigh in on this, we're curious to have some feedback from you, the audience. Our ghost line is open at 773-669-6452. We'll bring you on the air and get your 2 cents on this. Jace, when you see this, and you see these children describing what they're describing, does this hit you like maybe they're making something up? Is there something in the back of your mind? I mean, to me, it seems like it's quite clear they saw something. It's probably
Joel,
to define what it is. What do you think?
The first thing I thought was mass hallucination. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg. What's causing a mass hallucination? Who's causing it? Why is this happening? It's either that, or they've really, really seen something.
What kind of
Simple as that.
hallucination leaves burn marks?
Well, Joel,
I'm just curious. What kind of mass hallucination is also coincidentally going to leave burn marks behind? And they were describing that everything that was alive in that area, like the ants and everything, were dead. To me, that's I'm kind of thinking radiation. I'm thinking something from their propulsion system. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, mass hallucinations kind of down there. I mean, it's, I want to, throw the ideas out there and say, what could be the explanation for this? But I just don't.
Joel, the way I see it, there are 3 explanations.
Something in the water?
If you'll give me a moment here. First of all, I am throwing out the idea of this being 62 little liars. It doesn't work that way. I'm not even. You'd have to suspend more disbelief. You would have to suspend more disbelief trying to work that notion than to accept an alternative. 62 kids. I would also like to remind you that the school headmaster, the following day they were visited by government researchers. You had a professional ufologist, Catherine Hine, came from the United States all the way to Zimbabwe. And as you just saw in the video, a psychiatrist from Harvard and a filmmaker, documentarian, and the teachers, the parents. None of these adults were able to break the kids or find them in a lie, catch them in a lie. Not 1 out of 62. That is beyond disbelief. So I am not even going to go there. I'm done with that. option. The three that remain, in my opinion, I'll get the two more sensational out of the way first. First of all, this is a false flag operation. Obviously not carried out by the Zimbabwe military, which, according to Jace, they have their own skirmishes or whatever going on. I can't believe that they would be able to operate a flying saucer, have little 3-foot tall guys that can teleport. Look, if this is some sort of black project, that raises more questions than it does answers. First of all, you would have to accept that whatever government or institution is behind this has flying saucers, has 3 feet tall little guys, be they robots or whatever, and that they are able to teleport and move at incredible speeds. As the children also described the flying saucer as taking off and then being gone in a split second, which means they're moving at supersonic speeds without making enough noise for the adults to hear. Then you have to ask yourself, if this is some sort of black project, which is incredible, I mean, you'd really have to bend your mind to accept that and make that even workable. What is the operation, and why is it in Zimbabwe, which this didn't get very much press? I'd like to remind you, I'm a UFO nut, and I didn't even hear about this until I was in my late 30s. Okay, so that's how much press coverage this got. Not a lot. Not a lot. So you're asking who went to that kind of trouble to put on a production I can't even imagine how they would pull off. By the way, no adults got to see it, just some kids at a school in Zimbabwe. Okay, so I'll let you ruminate on that one, and I'm going to move to possibility number 2. I'm just going to get this one out of the way. That this is a experiment done by whoever is simulating the holographic reality we call the human experience here of life on Earth. If everything we see and everything around us is a machination of something far exceeding us, and we are all living in the Xbox human simulation, well, this could just be one of their games where they're like, oh, well, let's see what will happen with the humans if we have this flying saucer come up. Okay, if that is the reality of the situation, that reality isn't reality, well, then a flying saucer is the last of our problems, right? So I'm going to shelf that one for the time being, too. Number 3, what is left? A flying saucer with little green men in it. And by the way, I'd like to remind you on our previous episode, episode 0, the description of the ship sounds an awful lot like the Turkish UFO that was seen on the Mediterranean coastline of a metal silver ship with windows with little gray aliens with teardrop-shaped eyes. They're tiny little flying saucers. And if somebody wants to call in,
Tom, what you're describing there is like a child's top, a spinning top type of. Yep.
I just, the thing is, I'm so far away from disbelief at this point. I mean, I'm going to say that, I believe these kids. You can't orchestrate this on that kind of a scale. It's impossible. There is physical evidence that was left behind, and these children, up until their adulthood, look back at this and say, yeah, something happened. Now, what I think is interesting about this whole thing is that they don't look back on it as a negative thing. The entities were described as being interested in them. So maybe they came from a long way, and maybe they just thought that the children were fascinating. And, maybe they had to pull over to fix a flat tire or what have you, and decided to interact with some children. I don't know. There's a lot of questions here involved. To me,
the question I have is what sort of 5 to 12-year-old is going to have the concept of aliens communicating through emotions? That's an adult concept. And multiple children reported that the alien was transmitting what they gathered from the situation through emotions and thoughts.
Nobody said anything about them speaking. So we have someone on the ghost line. Welcome to the Shadowcast. I'm sorry, we just dropped him. Go ahead and give us a call back.
Get on it, Joel. Tune him back in.
I think
There you go. There's your reward for being part of the show.
we just like to hang up on people around here.
Take that. Paid in full.
Oh, I think they'll call back. I'm not sure that they could hear me, or maybe they didn't think
Probably Dylan Bianchi calling from the adult store.
Probably. Give us a call back there. I think that might have been Observatories. She was talking in the live chat about something that had happened that her family witnessed. They all seen the same UFO that abducted her family. So hopefully she'd give us a call back and tell us.
Joel, I would also like to remind the audience that this happened in real time, where the children ran into the school. All of them, all of the kids that were on the playground ran into the school. Were hiding under their desks, were jumping into their teachers' arms. They were absolutely terrified. And the adults couldn't figure out what was wrong. And the kids were so hysterical that the teachers had them sit down and draw what was happening, because when they told them that they had seen men and they had gotten out of the thing, the teacher couldn't make sense of it. Said, I need you to draw what happened. And 35 children, or excuse me, 35 drawings.
All right. So we got someone on the ghost line here. Oh, dang it. I don't know what's going on with her phone. She ended it again. I was waiting to bring her on. I don't know if she...
Joel, this is turning into like a Chevy Chase routine. What are you doing over there, man?
Plug the thing into the thing, Joel.
Not me.
Switchboard.
Not me. Not me, mate.
Is this some sort of hipster humor where you're being ironic with the people calling in?
No.
There's no one calling in.
Really not doing it. It's just she hung up before we were able
Okay, I didn't know if that was some sort of dark humor of yours.
I don't know. Well,
I wish there had been the drawings included. It's actually a 2-hour film that was taken from. There are the children's drawings, dozens of them. And some of the drawings are downright scary.
Mm.
One of the drawings has fire coming out of the flying saucer. Another of the drawings shows the face of the man that walked towards them. It's something horrible.
Yeah, I'm having some difficulties with Google Voice tonight. I guess it's saying that my phone's unavailable. I don't know why. Oh, that's weird. I'm sorry.
Men in Black trying to shut the show down.
That's the Russians.
Jace, have you ever heard of anything else like this before? I mean, okay, here we go. Hey, you're on the Shadow Line. What's going on? What? Yeah, press 1. Hello, here on the Shadow Line. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you. Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom, can you hear?
Yes.
Is this thing working? Okay, so Tom says he can hear you.
All right, cool.
All right, so tell us about what happened here.
Okay, this happened on children.
Boost the volume, Jay.
Of her house.
Oh.
So we all lived close together. So I walk from my one aunt's house to my other's, and I see this big, huge, round, gray ship.
with lights and it's moving. And I'm like, holy cow. So I run over to my house to look for the video camera. Can't find it, and the ship's gone. Then later, a friend of mine and my brother, who are on the opposite side of town, start talking about a ship they saw. Well, lo and behold, I find out that my cousins and stuff that were at the one house that I got the call from, they were all playing basketball there, and they talked about how the ship was hovering around them in the lights. And then so later that night, I go outside. I'm sneaking a cigarette in the backyard, and I'm looking outside, and I see this spaceship. But it was like the color of, like you say, the moon would be. But if you take the Batman symbol a little bit, or a cookie, and you cut the shape out of it a certain way, it was moving around and doing all these different things that no airplane could do. I actually do have footage of that, but
well, if you can send it to us, we'd love to post that. Can I ask you a question? From what you saw here with this interview down in Zimbabwe, what's your take on this?
My take with that is a lot of the stuff I've seen hit spot on with what my brother and my cousin claim happened to them the night after we all seen that ship.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night.
Interesting when you have an account with multiple people involved. Once you start getting into multiple witnesses of an event, it becomes increasingly hard to dismiss it.
Yeah, that was the big thing about the turkey footage a couple of weeks ago.
The more people that are involved in any given event, the more people you are going to have to basically accuse of deception.
I think that something bigger than what we're being fed on CNN is going on. I think that there's a larger consciousness involved. And I think that there is a bigger picture, a story that we're not being told at large. I think that
Joel,
oh, I like CNN.
Just to float this, could it be possible that a high-tech government operation was using holograms? Mind you, 1994. But is this possibly a holographic simulation done through some sort of machine that someone has? I know we're talking about Dr. Evil from Austin Powers or something, but
Tom, anything is possible. I think improbable, though. Possible.
That sounds incredibly improbable to me. I'm just trying to come up with anything.
Well, I understand.
I've been thinking about this for a long time. I'm coming up with nothing.
That's human nature. You want to come up with the rational explanation. You want to come up with an explanation that matches the reality that's familiar to you. Jace, what you were about to say there?
I was going to say, at that point in history, Zimbabwe was pretty war torn. It was not the place to be at all, and I don't think both sides of the argument would have been relying on some sort of deception or holograms. I think they were just trying to beat the crap out of one another at that point. It was not a pleasant place to be. Now, if some outside agency thought, well, this is a great time to test something out, test something new out, that's a possibility also. But it would have to be an outside agency as far as I'm concerned.
Look at the message that was delivered. What was being said? What did they talk about?
They talked about the future of Earth.
Right.
That is another concept that, to me, just seems beyond first graders.
Sounds like...
I don't know that that's the first thing a child is going to come up with.
It makes me wonder if the visitors really had like a full grasp understanding of it does create a lot of questions. I do know that it does seem that maybe we'll have to revisit this. I'd like to find the 2-hour documentary this is coming from, and I would also it would be very interesting somehow to get a hold of the police report on this whole thing. And they said the investigators went back there and found the charred, burned areas and the dead animals, bugs, what was back there. That would be interesting to get a hold of. Probably next to impossible. I doubt they have a, Zimbabwe.
It may not even exist, Joel. And also, I was very interested in the crime scene, if you want to call it that. And there's not, I mean, I can believe that what the children were saying is true, but I did not find outside sourcing on that. Also, if that was like a brush area, it may have been somewhere that things got burned. And so I'm not 100% on that right now. I've read articles and watched videos on this. I haven't heard any follow-up on that. So that part is kind of up in the air for me. I don't know.
Well, certainly.
Because that seems like a big deal.
More questions than we have answers tonight.
A lot of questions, but you got to keep in mind too that this is 1994. This is in a place where like you also have to put yourself in the school personnel's position. They weren't equipped to handle this. They didn't know what was happening. It's a retrospect thing where we're saying, it's incredible that they did as much documentation as they did, where they had the kids immediately draw pictures while it was still fresh in their mind. So
it's very telling that you have that Harvard psychologist that's saying, yes, these children are telling the truth as they perceive it.
I'm glad that the teachers, the parents allowed, instead of being people that tried to sweep this under the rug, they kept an open mind and allowed the children to tell their stories instead of shooting them down.
And they strike me as just good, sweet kids. I mean, I don't think for a second, it just doesn't strike me that they're, making this up for attention. I just don't buy that for a second.
Also, they're not kids anymore. Yep. And the teachers were talking about, hey, we still get together with our students, and they're adults. They're all adults now. So
one thing I mean away from this, Tom, is that regardless of what happened, at the end of the day, they look back on it as a positive experience. They would welcome the visitors back. They talk about how they would want them to come back. They're curious. They want to talk to these little guys. And to me, I think that says something right there, that maybe this isn't something to be feared. Whoever these visitors are apparently are not malicious. I don't think they're here to hurt us. There are certain facts that I think can be gleaned from the situation, Tom. I mean, obviously they didn't pull out their death rays and start roasting people left and right. So what's that make you think, Tom? I mean, is this a benevolence at work? Are they, obviously I think they're trying to warn us. So at the end of the day, are they on our side?
Two things, Joel. First of all, the intelligence that has this sort of technology could easily do away with any humans that they saw fit. Second of all, the way we view things, by course, would not be the same way that beings from somewhere else would view things. They may be very interested in the planet Earth as a living thing. They may view the planet Earth as part of the galaxy, which is something important to them. Whereas one species among millions that live in this sphere may not be the primary thing that they are interested in. And it has also been put out there by fiction writers, other thinkers, that perhaps the mass UFO reports coinciding with the beginning of the nuclear age is not a coincidence. And that maybe this whole nuclear
Nuclear proliferation.
stockpile,
Right,
the stockpiling of nuclear weapons is perhaps crossing a threshold that is not okay with someone or something out there, and that one of the earliest or multiple of the earliest UFO encounters happened very near nuclear bases. And I'm sorry, Jason.
Well, you must have. I was going to say, you must have heard about the theory that after the first nuclear bomb tests, they could have opened up portals to different dimensions.
That's a good point, Jace. Also, that doing nuclear testing is something that could be detectable from space, especially,
right, yeah.
especially if there were pre-existing bases, satellites, or radars in the solar system or even on the moon. Then that's something, just the radio waves that would be given off from nuclear testing would have been detectable from the moon or perhaps one of the satellites.
Right. At the very least, we're talking, it's visible for hundreds of miles up there.
Oh, I think we're talking about an absolute, order of magnitude of energy that's released. You're talking about across the spectrum. You're talking, ionizing radiation along with RF and the electromagnetic signature. I mean, you're talking about a big boom across multiple, the entire spectrum when you're talking about setting off a nuke. You're all
it's certainly at the very least, it's an Arthur C. Clarke like moment in time. It was our next big step.
Jace, it's also been suggested by people who have pondered the subject that the aliens that are obviously technologically superior to humans, it doesn't change the fact that nuclear weapons obliterate whatever they hit. And just because we're a few thousand or a few million years behind whatever is flying around in spaceships doesn't mean that the launch of nuclear weapons is something that they could withstand. Or if, as the kids believe, that these beings are very interested in the safety of the planet and the atmosphere, specifically of the planet, the last thing they would want to happen is for a nuclear launch to take place. By the way, if one nuclear missile gets shot, they all get shot. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I was there in 75. I know the deal.
We have a question. Honest question in the live chat that just popped up. From Bayarashi, she says, honest question, why would anything or anyone care about our little planet?
Oh, I've got an answer for that.
Go for it.
Sorry,
Jace.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah,
I was saying that's a very good question.
Oh, okay. Because we could trigger off such a reaction through the universe if we went down. The ripples going out from our planet being destroyed. Even the vibes, if you want to feel it that way, it could start a ripple effect that could have terrible, terrible ramifications for galaxies away.
I have an answer, but I think it's out there. Shared consciousness. I think that these beings share the same divine spark that we have, and I think that it's reasonable that if they're an enlightened species, that they don't want to see us do ourselves dirty. I think it could be just as simple as they have basic compassion and love for their, fellow creation.
Joel, it could also be that these are the same entities that had a hand in human creation, or at least human development.
That's very true. They don't
like that theory. Like that, yeah.
Also, I would like to point out that atomic weapons work just as well, if not better, in outer space. I would also like to point out that many thinkers view the universe as all one thing. And also that the planet Earth, insofar as astronomers know about, is something incredibly unique in that it is basically the paradise of the known universe. Just something I'm pointing out there. But that is a good question. Could the flying saucer people also have something to do with Earth's future or distant past, and they are time travelers? Because they talked about the future and they told the kids that something bad is going to happen, but it's not too late. Does that mean they know something more about time? And is time related? Could Earth play a bigger role in their picture of things?
This could be something like maybe they view themselves as caretakers since they have reached that type of technological epic. Maybe that's how they look at this when they see, lesser species. Perhaps they look at themselves as our big brother.
Joel, if they're Martians, some have theorized that Earth is actually a Martian colony, because we know that Mars used to be very similar to Earth. It used to be much warmer than it is. It used to have a different atmosphere, and it used to have oceans of water. And
I'm from Mars. I can tell you that is true.
Joel, many mainstream scientists have said it is possible that terrestrial life began on Mars, and during a bombardment of asteroids, microscopic life was carried through the solar system to Earth. I'm not sure I'm on board with that, but there are people that say that would actually, because the layout of the solar system millions of years ago looked much different than it did now. And some people that know about solar history think that that is a much more viable option of explaining how life could be sustainable billions of years ago, when the Earth wasn't exactly hospitable to life, when they know that the evolution of life would, according to their models, not mine, would take billions of years. They're trying to understand, well, how could a vulcanized planet that is... anyway, I'll stop there before I start sounding ridiculous.
Space amoebas, man. Space amoebas, Tom.
Yes, space amoebas, but I'm not... That's other people's ideas. I'm not necessarily on board with that. I'm just saying.
Boys, I'm going to have to sign out for tonight.
It's been a
I've
great
got
show.
something going on my phone here, so I'm going to have to duck out for the evening.
Men in Black.
All right.
Yeah, but more than likely,
compromised. He's one of them now.
Yeah, don't let me on again.
You got a
It'll be
text
like
that
this.
said, "We'll give you $10,000 to sign off."
All right.
Have fun with
Seeing
your
you.
introduction. So
Bye.
we're going to wrap this up. Observatories of My Mind just dropped a interesting comment there in the live chat.
I
She
want
says
you to know. What does it say, Joel?
She says that her brother says that he was taken up from his bed, did have something different with his hands. Everything he touched, he would leave his handprints, or you see his fingertip marks. Some sort of possible residual energy. Strange. Okay.
That is strange. And I want you to know I'm keeping an open mind to this specific account.
Yeah. I definitely think that there's way more questions.
Many people report being taken from their bed at night and then having strange after effects in their daily life.
My aunt, I want to have her on as a guest. She was abducted several times throughout her childhood and her adulthood as well. And she's someone who is a very sober person. She's very balanced. She's not some sort of a, mental defect. There's no sort of, there's nothing to blame it on. And she has some very compelling stories. And a friend of mine, I want to have on as well. His name's Josh. When we have our next Aliens episode, I think it'll be fun to have him on because he's had some experiences that basically make the hair on the back of your neck raise. And what's interesting about this one specifically is that you might listen to him and think, this guy's crazy. He's drunk. He's on 10 different kinds of drugs. But the answer might surprise you is that he's not. He's just not. And it's very difficult to fake things when you're waking up in the middle of the morning, being put back into your bed, and you have a witness there. His girlfriend actually witnessed the tail end of at least one of his abductions, and she'd actually also witnessed the entire house filled with a blue light. She describes it in her words as everything was resonating. Everything was vibrating at some sort of a high frequency, strange type of resonation, as the whole house was filled with a blue light that slowly faded away as the resonating stopped. So we'll have them as a guest here on an upcoming episode of Midwest Shadowcast. Tom, what do we learn here tonight?
I'm wondering if the children were brainwashed, how could it have been done? And how could it have been done all at once with no one noticing that this operation was taking place? Just the undertaking seems unimaginable to me, how you could pull it off to deceive dozens of people in such a fashion as this.
I will put out
can't come up with anything.
Tom, the CIA, our heroic government that would never do anything wrong to harm anyone, was caught in a very famous case several decades back. They dumped LSD into the town water supply.
Yeah, they did.
But I'm saying, so that kind of thing has happened.
Yes.
Even if this was the situation where our CIA guys were dumping gallons of LSD into their water supply,
I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm saying
it doesn't even explain. It does not explain how
heavy...
these children come together and have the same experience.
I would also like to point out that LSD makes that much LSD would make a child physically sick, and not that that is impossible for something like that to happen. I'm wondering what is the end game.
The only real possible explanation that I can come up with, the only secular explanation that I can even begin to entertain, is that some sort of hidden technology. This was either a social experiment or a rollout of a strange secret pseudo weapon that will.
It could be.
Because, there have been plenty of experiments, and this has been proven, where voices can be planted inside your mind by outside sources, CIA, and anyone who's ever researched MK Ultra or the things surrounding that could see that perhaps that's not outside the realm, the scope of capabilities for for an entity like that, like the CIA. I'm just saying that to me is the one possible secular explanation.
It's possible that the kids are microchipped and that they have a nanotechnology that was injected in them, maybe through something like a vaccination, and the kids are microchipped, and that's how thoughts and images are being put into their minds. But again, that's a tall order, man. And for you to go there, which that I guess that is a less extreme option than alien visitation. But even if that is the case, what are we talking about, man? This is mind-blowing.
Well, that's what we're here for, is to talk about strange, unexplained, and mind-blowing things here on the Shadowcast podcast. So we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. It was fun having you and Jace on the show and talking about this thing that so few people even know happened.
A special thank you to Observatories of the Mind. We appreciate you being brave enough to tell a story that other people may not be ready to receive, but we appreciate you here.
Reason number 10,197 that I'm keeping my ass out of Zimbabwe. Good night, guys. Thank you so much for watching our show. We'll catch you next time.
Good night. Take care.